It's not every day that journalists have the opportunity to meet country leaders, let alone a president of a dynamic country, a regional power, a country with the world's 19th largest economy, a member of NATO and a founding member of G20. Today is a rare day because I get to interview the former president of the Republic of Turkey, Abdullah Gul. Your Excellency, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Now, the past 2 years have all thrown us off the track. The COVID-19 crisis has caused economic strain, political divide, and social tension in virtually every part of the world. With rising inflation and unemployment and contracting investments, how is Turkey faring at the moment?
First of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be a guest on your show. This virus has affected every corner of the world, not just one country, but all of us. Naturally, the developed countries were able to respond better. For example, Turkey has managed to prevent a large number of victims thanks to the efficient healthcare system. The country prides highly qualified doctors and healthcare workers and well-equipped hospitals. And thanks to this, the healthcare system has been able to respond to the challenges, including those posed by the pandemic. In addition, nearly 60% of all Turkish residents have been vaccinated. As for the economy, well, of course, we faced some difficulties. The government helped small businesses with rent, helped them pay wages to their employees. Perhaps it wasn't entirely enough, but I still think that was a significant help. The economy is now recovering. In particular, the manufacturing industry is picking up and production is returning to its normal levels. I think we will see an economic growth in Turkey this year. Of course, all other economic indicators are also important. It is imperative that we can prevent their decline during such difficult times.
Mr. Gul, Turkey has had an impressive social and economic development since the early 2000s. And these were during your roles as Prime Minister, as Deputy Prime Minister, and eventually as President of Turkey. This is when Turkey has had a strong macroeconomic framework. It opened up to foreign trade and finance and became a high middle income country, which is a tremendous achievement for the country. Now, looking beyond the immediate recovery from this pandemic, where does the current Turkey stand?
Çok güzel günlerimizi hatırlattınız. Teşekkür ederim doğrusu.
Thank you for reminding me of a wonderful period for Turkey. Indeed, along with the implementation of the needed political and legal reforms, Turkey grew its economy and the gross national product. We had a very bright period in terms of investments and other economic growth aspects. Unfortunately, there are serious challenges the country is faced with now. But I hope after the pandemic is defeated, that shook the entire world, our government will fill the gaps.
Diyorum ki bu hastalık bittikten sonra hükümet yeni programlarıyla bu boşluğu doldurur.
The government is currently working towards the pseudo recovery, preparing and implementing various development programs. We shouldn't be pessimistic. Turkey's potential is enormous. Hopefully the economy will recover, and as it has been the case in the past, the economic performance will be revived.
Düzelir ve yine eskisi gibi güzel bir trend yakalanır kanaatindeyim.
Your Excellency, during your presidency, Turkey harmonized many of its laws and regulations in accordance with EU standards and embraced democratic values. Turkey strives to become a full-fledged, influential EU member state by 2023. How plausible and realistic is this prospect, given, number one, the current status quo, a somewhat cooling of a relationship between Turkey and the West, and number two, the fact that Turkey has a predominantly Muslim population?
Haklısınız, biz Türkiye'de yaptığımız köklü.
Yes, you're right. We meet the requirements for members of the European Union because of the deep legal and political reforms that have been carried out in Turkey. There is no limit to perfection, so we still have something to strive for. However, what we have done is enough to carry the negotiations on the full membership in the European Union. I've always believed that in a country with a Muslim population, democracy is possible, just as it is possible in countries like Germany and France.
Bu değerleri dolayısıyla ekonomik kalkınma da çok hızlı gelir. Buna inandığım için çok buna öncülük yaptım ve o dönemde de
Democratic values do not contradict Islam. On the contrary, Islam upholds the democratic values. Improvements in legislation and effective policies in the past have resulted in the dramatic economic growth. This was my approach while I was in office. Unfortunately, the recent developments in Turkey have weakened this process. There is no significant progress at the moment. The process for joining the EU has technically slowed down. I would like to note that Turkey has become stronger following the requirements of the European Union. Even if, in the future, the country does not become a full member of the European Union, it is still important that we remain the country that adheres to the democratic values. For example, the UK withdrew from the European Union. Norway is not a member of the European Union, but they are both developed countries because they uphold such values. Actually, I wanted to turn Turkey into such a country. We must be realistic. At the moment, the EU accession remains open to debate. But all is not yet lost. Everything may change in the future.
President Gul, to back what you said, Turkish people have actually indeed been exemplary for the Muslim world and shown that democratic values or democracy is possible within the Islamic context, within an Islamic culture. However, there have been changes in the country in the past decade. What would you say to those who argue that there has been a democratic backsliding in Turkey in the past years?
Tabii ki
Of course, there will always be people who do not quite correctly interpret certain things and as a result have a wrong idea of the world. But it would be very wrong to associate such people with Islam. For example, if a person is called by a typical Muslim name Ahmed or Mehmet, this does not mean at all that he is a righteous person. Likewise, one cannot make an ambiguous conclusion about the human qualities of a German or an Englishman named John or Hans. Every person is good or bad according to their actions. And in Turkey, unfortunately, from time to time we see people who distort or misinterpret the faith. That is why we have seen significant changes in the recent years, and they have been shocking to us too. We are greatly concerned with some of the changes in the country, but I believe we will get through this. I believe that Turkey will become an example of a Muslim country with the highest standards of democracy. And this achievement will be valuable both for us as a nation, for the Islamic world, and for the whole world.
İslam dünyası için hem de bütün dünya için çok kıymetli olduğuna inanıyorum.
Your Excellency, let's talk about regional security for a moment. Now, the current Turkish administration is not in rush to recognize and work with the Taliban-led Afghanistan, and but given the historical ties and given the presence and investments made in Afghanistan, how do you view the Turkish foreign policy towards Afghanistan, towards the Afghan crisis?
Türkiye'nin Afganistan'la tarihsel ilişkisi var.
Turkey has long-standing historical ties with Afghanistan. After the World War, Turkey and Afghanistan were the only two independent Muslim countries. During those years, Turkey assisted Afghanistan's development. Many Afghan doctors, military personnel were educated in Turkey. This is how the relations between the countries were nurtured. In the early 2000s, Turkey helped as part of the NATO's operations. Turkey has taken an active part in the International Security Assistance Force. However, Turkey did not participate in the actual fightings, but in providing the necessary military training activities.
Bir şekilde eğitim hizmetleri veren bir şekilde güçlü bir askeri birliği olmuştur Türkiye'nin bazen 2000-3000'lere kadar.
In 2000-2003, the number of Turkish troops in Afghanistan was increased. Our troops remained in Afghanistan until the very end. Turkey has also contributed to the economic development of Afghanistan, provided assistance under the Provincial Reconstruction Teams program.
Afganistan geçen aylarda çok büyük kargaşalar yine yaşadı. Büyük ölümler oldu. Sonunda Amerikalılar ve
Unfortunately, Afghanistan has experienced a great upheaval in the recent months. We saw many civilian casualties and deaths. In the end, the Americans and NATO withdrew their troops. Everyone left and the Taliban took control of the whole of Afghanistan. And now the responsibility for running the country lies with the Taliban. The Taliban are positioning themselves as an Islamic movement. But this, of course, is a complex issue. Because now, all their actions will be associated with Islam throughout the world. So this becomes a very sensitive topic.
Onun için Taliban'ın yanlış yaparsa yanlışları sadece kendi halkına değil, bütün Müslümanlığa olacak. Müslümanlık evrensel.
If the Taliban make mistakes, the consequences will be echoed for their entire Muslim world. Muslims, whether they are American, Turkish, Arab, or Russian, may have to face the consequences. Afghanistan is also home to people of other faiths.
Kadınlarla ilgili, kızlarla ilgili bazı konulardaki uygulamaları biliyorsunuz.
For this reason, a state that calls itself an Islamic country must take the responsibility in all aspects. Their treatment of women and girls is totally unacceptable. Such attitudes have nothing to do with Islam.
Buna bakmak gerekir. Tabii ki bir şekilde
They justify their actions with religion. We need to see how they will govern Afghanistan. Of course, independence is important. It is important to stop the war and bloodshed. The fight for this country is still ongoing, but this great fight is now aimed at bringing peace to Afghanistan and making all Afghans happy and prosperous. The whole world wants to help, but they themselves must also give the world the opportunity to help them. In this respect, Turkey today is taking a wait-and-see approach. We want the Taliban to prove themselves first.
Bir taraftan da herhalde bir zaman süresi içerisinde eğer güven sağlarsa Taliban Türkiye'de tanıyacaktır.
Speaking of regional security, Turkey plays an influential role as a in conflict resolution in the region and strives to do so, and is actually sort of a harbor of peace and stability in a tumultuous region. The Syrian conflict, and I know you've been asked this question a lot during your presidency, how do you view the current Turkish involvement in the Syrian conflict, and what resolution do you think is possible for Syria, is most likely?
Suriye meselesi çok büyük bir mesele. Ne yazık ki başında
The Syrian conflict is a complex challenge. Unfortunately, the mistakes made at the beginning of the conflict cannot be corrected. A decision made without understanding the future strategy and the consequential losses cannot be undone and reversed. As a result, we are seeing Syria in a desperate state, with millions of people displaced, hundreds of thousands dead.
Kadınların, kızların, herkesin çok acı çektiği bir bölge oldu. Bunun yanında da bu boşluktan birçok radikal örgüt.
The political crisis gave way to the emergence of many radical organizations. Today, the Syrian conflict is a result of a complete failure of a political dialogue. Many mistakes were made, which led to tragic consequences. The parties underestimated the likelihood of Russia's involvement in the conflict.
Çok underestimate edildi. Neticede bugünkü statüko hiç kimsenin faydasına değil, Türkiye'nin de faydasına değil, diğer komşuların da faydasına.
The current situation does not benefit Turkey as well as other countries in the region. Therefore, many years ago when I was president, in 2012, at the beginning of all these events, I said that the only solution to the crisis were political negotiations. Having the authority to do this, I spoke about this at international meetings, at NATO meetings. The best solution was proposed by Kofi Annan. Later, the former foreign minister of Algeria, Lagdar Brahimi, also proposed a political dialogue. Unfortunately, political negotiations did not take place, but the ongoing crisis can be solved only through diplomatic talks. This is the only way to preserve the territorial integrity and achieve a political unity in Syria. This will be beneficial for everyone.
Bu hepimizin işine gelir.
Your Excellency, I think you started speaking that Russia's sort of involvement was underestimated in Syria, or its potential for involvement. So I'd like to talk to you about some of the changing, larger geopolitical changes or change in the landscape. We're observing a cooling of the relations between Turkey and the United States. And amid those tensions with the United States, we're also seeing that especially treatment is given to ties with Russia. How do you view these changing relations of Turkey and Russia, and Turkey and the United States?
Türkiye İkinci Dünya Harbi'nden sonra kurulan yeni dünya düzeninde
Turkey is an ally for the Western world. The country is one of the important and early members of NATO. The country is a strong ally to the United States of America. However, this does not mean that there are no disagreements with the United States.
bir ülke bu Amerika Birleşik Devletleri ile hiç sorun yaşamayacak anlamına gelmez.
Disagreements may happen, but in regards to a larger agenda, Turkey and the Western world are within one alliance. We cooperate with NATO. This should not be overlooked.
Müttefiklerinden birisi. Bunu gözden kaçırmamak gerekir. Son günlerde Amerika
Relations with the United States are stabilizing as of recently. This is the first thing. Secondly, Russia is our neighbor, a big nation. Therefore, it is beneficial for us and for Russia to be in very friendly, peaceful relations with each other. But the political systems of Russia and Turkey are different.
Dolayısıyla Türkiye'nin Rusya'yla çok samimi, dostane, barışçı bir işbirliği içerisinde olması hem bizim için hem Rusya için iyi. Ama Rusya'nın rejimiyle Türkiye'nin rejimi farklı. Rusya'da Sovyetlerden sonra
After the collapse of the Soviet Union, a multi-party system took shape in Russia. But in terms of democratic processes and attitudes, Russia is very different from Turkey. Turkey is a country that participates in all European institutions. Turkey is a country that aspires for a full membership in the European Union.
Türkiye Avrupa Birliği'de tam üyelik müzakerelerine başlamış bir ülke. Dolayısıyla Türkiye'nin rejimi
Turkey and Russia have different views on the world. However, a bilateral cooperation in the spirit of friendship, peace, and mutual respect should always take place. This is what I think.
ayrı bir şey, aynı blokta olmak ayrı bir şey. Ben böyle bakıyorum.
Your Excellency, Turkey has experienced major political shifts in the past 5 years, moving from parliamentary government to presidency, to executive presidency. Has this been a positive change for Turkey? And Turkey is also right now preparing a new constitution. The drafting of the new constitution is well underway, with hopes that next year it will be finalized. What types of changes do you expect to be brought about by the new constitution?
Tabii önemli bir soru sordunuz. Ben Cumhurbaşkanı iken de
You have asked an important question. When I was president, I was the one who insisted on maintaining the parliamentary system of governance in the country. I have warned that the president's power was becoming overly overwhelming and exceeding the powers of the parliament. Changes to the constitution were not even up for discussion, because we are a country that shares the values of the European democracy.
Türkiye'de anayasa değişirken
I always believed that Turkey needs to embrace these values. You mentioned the transition to an executive presidency. When the country moved to the presidential form of governance, I disagreed with the changes openly. I speak about it openly now. I'm reassured of my stance when I look at the current situation in Turkey.
Benim haklı olduğum herhalde ortaya çıktığı kanaatindeyim.
Turkey will mark its centennial anniversary. The Republic will mark its centennial anniversary in 2023. That is less than 2 years. What are your hopes for the future of Turkey?
Tabii ki bu tip
Such historical milestones are important. Just as 30 years of independence are important for Kazakhstan, so the 100 years of sovereignty are very significant for Turkey. We all want to make Turkey a strong and prosperous country, and we are doing our best to make it a reality. The government has set major plans and ambitious programs. We want to implement all of them. Despite the ups and downs, I think Turkey will take its rightful place in history and the world. In this regard, I am confident in the bright future of our country.
Gayet ümitliyim o bakımdan, ülkemizin geleceğinden.
President Gul, thank you.
Thank you.